Welcome. My name is Mark Patsy, and I'm the city engineer for Lakewood. And obviously, we're here for the Hilliard Road resurfacing project and bicycle lanes. Glad you could join us today. With us here we have our planning director, Sean Leninger. We have Caitlin Milius from our planning department. And then we have Cynthia from DLZ, and they're our consultants on the project. So this project started probably a couple years ago. We had submitted to NOACA for funding the project, and were successful. And over about the course of the year, we started working with Cuyahoga County, who wanted to come on board with this project as well, as it being a county road. So they're doing like a 60-40 split or whatever NOACA isn't covering. So that's kind of our project partners. ODOT is the reviewing agency on the project for the federal funds. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Cindy, who's going to give you a breakdown of the project and what we're going to be doing. I think, after she gives the presentation, we'll open up the floor for like general comments. And then if you have any specific questions, like regarding like in front of your house, things of that nature, or that, we'll have staff in the back from planning that can talk about that. I'll be over here to talk generally about the plan detour if you got questions or that. But if you have like any real specific questions regarding like your property or something like that, we'll be available for those questions as well. So with that, we'll hand it over to Cindy.
Hello, my name is Cindy, and I'm going to just walk you through a little bit of what this project is about. So as an introduction, the Hilliard Road project, it is from Riverside Drive all the way to Warren, and the project is mainly a resurfacing where we're going to mill off 3 inches of pavement and then resurface it. It also includes partial and full depth repairs and signing and pavement marking. So the objectives of my presentation tonight include discussing what the items of work are, discussing the maintenance of traffic, talking about some drainage improvements that are going to happen as part of the project, and discussing bicycle lane implementation. And then after that, we're just going to have some time for questions, like Mark said, general questions. So the project work items that we are including in this project, like I said, the project is going to mill off, plane off approximately 3 inches of pavement and then replace it with asphalt, and that's intermediate and surface course asphalt. So the plan is to mill off the pavement and then take a great look at what the base looks like, and in areas where the base is in poor condition, they're doing either partial or full depth pavement repair, which means taking out the base so that cracks and whatnot in the base do not propagate through the new resurfacing. So that will happen. There's also going to be the bridge that goes over I-90. The approach slabs to that will be fully replaced as part of this project. And the section of concrete that extends from the east end of the I-90 bridge towards the Riverside Road intersection, that section of concrete is also going to be removed and replaced in its entirety. So that is the extent of the pavement work. A couple other things that are happening as part of this project: the stamped crosswalks, the stamped concrete crosswalks that you see along Hilliard on most of the intersections, they will be done at every intersection. So the ones that do not currently have stamped concrete, Woodward, Niagara, I believe it's Lakeland, those will end up with the stamped concrete crosswalks after this project is over. Also, there are a couple, not very many, non-ADA compliant curb ramps in the project area, and those will get removed and replaced as part of this project as well. So maintenance of traffic. The road is unfortunately not wide enough to maintain two-way traffic throughout construction. So what is going to end up happening is the road will become one-way, and we will detour one direction of traffic. The goal is to keep all of the side streets open for as long as possible throughout construction. They will be temporarily closed at certain times just to enable doing the resurfacing right at those locations, or in the case that there's a stamped concrete crosswalk being constructed across them, then it might be closed for a weekend, 3 days, in order to complete the stamped concrete crosswalk. But the side streets, the intent is to keep them open for the majority of the project duration. So this is a display that shows the one-way traffic and how it will be detoured around the construction. And of course, this will be the signed detour. If you know where you're going and you know how to get there, you don't necessarily have to follow the detour, but this is for people who end up within the project area and do not know how to get where they want to go. So, drainage improvements. When we started working on this project, Mark told us that there was a certain area between Olive and McKinley where residents had noticed ponding issues. So we took a detailed look at this, and we determined that what we did was we performed pavement calculations that show how much water ponds during certain rain events. And we determined that we do need to add additional inlets within the project area. So a total of 8 inlets are planned to be added within the project area. Also going to be adding a manhole. So that will occur as part of the project work. Oh, another item that we will be replacing in the project, since we are going to be including bike lanes on this project, we will also be removing and replacing any grates that have openings that are wider or longer than 4 inches in order to have bike-friendly grates. So the bike lane. So the bike lanes throughout the project areas are going to be about 5 feet wide, a minimum of 4 feet. There's one section of the roadway that is a little more narrow. We are maintaining lanes that are at least 11 foot in width for through lanes and 10 foot in width for any turning lanes that are out there. And there's just one small section of the road where, in order to maintain the 11-foot through lanes, we end up going down to 4-foot bike lanes. But other than that, the bike lanes will be at least 5 foot in width. Including bike lanes on this project does mean that we will be eliminating parking throughout the project area. There is not much parking in the area to begin with. Mainly it's just on Hilliard west of the Madison intersection. There's some parking in that area. But since the bike lanes are going in on both sides of the road, they will be directional with the travel lanes. There will be no parking after the project is done. So with that, that's kind of a description, generally speaking, of what's going on with this project and what is proposed as the project for Hilliard Road. So if anybody has any general questions. Oh, just before we start questions, one more thing. There are sign-in sheets all around the room. It is part of the public involvement process for this project and a requirement of getting federal money for the project, which there is a lot of federal money involved in this project, to show proof that we had a public meeting. So if you could all be so kind as to sign into one of the sheets, I would greatly appreciate that. And so would the city. Oh, there it is. I'm not seeing the mouse.
Generally, we're keeping the detour route on city streets and on the main roads, using Detroit and Riverside as the main detour routes. Obviously, you know, if you're in an area that, you know, like between Madison and Warren, you don't have to go all the way to Riverside. You can obviously go down Madison and make your left, but the traffic direction is basically to the northeast.
This map is different from the one that was mailed to us.
It's just slightly different. There's some minor detours shown on this. The detour route, the main detour route is the same.
Okay, but my particular concern is I now see an arrow on Kinley between Hilliard and Madison. It wasn't on the original map, or is the intent to detour traffic to Kinley?
That is only going to be a very short-term duration. It's just because you can't resurface that entire intersection under two-way traffic on McKinley. Because most of the minor side streets, you can shut it down to one lane of traffic and just have people, you know, monitor themselves going. But on McKinley, you can't do that. So there'll be a short period of time where we have to have McKinley with one-way traffic, which is why there's a detour shown.
Just the second between Hilliard and Madison.
Correct.
Most likely, I mean, you know, we'll limit the amount to like a week or that for the contractor, you know, in order to do his base repairs and that. And probably during resurfacing itself, it would have to be detoured so they can get through the intersection.
Which intersection? The
This-
intersection of
McKinley.
Hilliard and McKinley?
Correct.
And the one that we sent out is like the major detour that'll be throughout the whole project duration.
When they say obviously temp durations, I think our main concern is that the on-street parking part of the temp durations is going to be removed. And there are 8 businesses on the corner that use that on-street parking. That's going to have a severe negative impact on our business, on our capabilities to serve customers, to take product, to do everything. That front area is used for every hour of operation we have. Friday and Saturdays, 30 to 40 cars. Customers are going to pick up their food and their orders. There are catering trucks in and out of there all day, every day. That is going to severely impact. So if there's some way that we can, another meeting or put a variance, you can put the bike lane only on the south side of the street, or that, it's 225 feet. The area that those 8 businesses use for parking. Or any other options to maintain 225 feet of parking.
I know Sean and I were planning to meet with you guys. I think I sent out an email this morning that we'd like to sit down and work through the plan and see what we can do to assist with that. I think Sean had a couple ideas, so we definitely want to talk to you guys about that.
Ross Keller, the owner, will be back Tuesday, so next week.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I think I sent him out.
You guys were in contact a little bit.
Yeah, I sent him a couple, you know, meeting dates, but yeah, we definitely want
For vehicles or bikes?
for vehicles.
ODOT set it at 11 feet
That's the minimum you can make.
for a through lane. Turning lane is 10 foot. Well, we're here to get the public comments, so if you have a comment that you'd like to make that is in any way, you know,
No, I mean, this is the opportunity for the public to, you know, engage and give their opinion, and, you know, we respond to all the comments that we receive.
the reason I'm here as the designer is to incorporate public comments into the proposed plans. So we're here to listen to your comments.
We've just completed our stage one submittal and got comments back from ODOT and from the county as well as the city. And, you know, it's taking those comments along with public input, and for our next stage submittal, which is like our stage 3, and then there's another submittal for the final plan documents. It's like part of the project development process that we follow, that's required for federal projects. Not about this specific project. There's been, you know, a lot of meetings where, you know, we talked about the master bicycle plan and things of that nature that, you know, have included like this project and other areas of the city for, you know, adding bicycle infrastructure to it.
The speed limit is going to remain the same at 35 miles per hour.
Not at this point, no.
When it comes to accessibility, and in fact, we had this chance to look at the last episode, we maybe take a harder look at the north-south connections. I know we kind of consistently apply where we have crossings as non-stop shoulder intersections, but as a resident of Arthur, it would be really nice, you know, Arthur and Mars, to be able to have people cross on the side. We're walking hundreds and hundreds of people in
Yeah, I know, we're working with the Hilliard, bridge team on that intersection, and what the future will look like, connecting up this bicycle infrastructure with that. So we are looking at that for, all companies. Sure.
What's the, time overlap, whatever, between this project and the
So, the Hilliard Road Bridge was planned to be, under construction in 2023, which we moved this project ahead to next year to 2022, so that we wouldn't have both projects going at the same time. So the whole intent is to get the resurfacing done. However, I think the bridge might be, a little bit further behind, that it might actually maybe start in 2024. So most likely this project's gonna be going out to bid, we think probably in the first quarter of 2022. So probably, we might get a start as early as April, and it'll probably last about 8 months or less. So, the project, once we get the plans completed and finalized, it's actually gonna be bid out, and the construction management's gonna be done by the county for this project. So the county's taking the project lead for the construction administration.
While the construction's going on, as far as storage of equipment and aggregate files, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we do have a staging area potentially that the contractor can use off of South Marginal. That we're thinking. Other than that, I think on most of these projects, they tend to keep their storage piles and everything within the zone that they're working in. So most likely, the contractor's probably gonna work within the zone most of the time. He might have like his office and some storage materials over there on South Marginal. Majority should probably be within the construction zone, so. Sure.
on South Marshall?
South Marginal.
South Marginal. There's a piece of land that the city owns that's inside the right-of-way on South Marginal, just east of the intersection with Hilliard.
Yeah, it's a vacant, parcel. Oh, okay. Sean could show you off the air. Yeah.
You have Bluebeam or something to open a PDF?
Sean is in the back on that
Okay.
aerial, he can show you.
Just curious, at the intersection of Hilliard and McKinley, there's a turning lane in both directions on Hilliard. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of room there, so how is the bike lane going to be incorporated? Does the turning lane remain, or?
That is actually one location within the project area where we are not going to have the continuous bike lane through that intersection, because the turning movements are too heavy there to eliminate the turning lane, and there was not enough space to maintain a dedicated bike lane through there. So the lanes through that intersection will become shared use bike vehicle lanes for the through right movement, and they will have left turn lanes as well.
So I'm assuming there's going to be signage then, right?
Yes. Do you want to pull up the one that kind of shows striping?
that's the one that I had pulled up, and I don't know what program to open it on your computer in order to get.
You can
the-
zoom in with them.
Oh, there we go. That didn't do it.
Learning just like a control, a scroll.
Shit, not my own computer. So this kind of gives you an idea of what the bike lanes are going to look like at Riverside. There's always 100-foot of dotted line prior to an intersection because cars are legally required to move as far to the right as possible before making a right-hand turn. So that is the reason for the dotted lines before the intersection. You are supposed to merge with the bike lane in order to make a right-hand turn. So this intersection has the left turn lane, a through lane that has a right turn, and then the bike lane. As you move across the bridge, there are buffered bike lanes across the bridge. And then as you go into the project area, you have the directional bike lanes that are maintained, as I said, all the way to McKinley. And at McKinley, the bike lanes briefly drop off. You have shared use lanes through the intersection, and then the bike lanes pick up again. So throughout the project corridor, McKinley is the only intersection that will have that left turn lane. As you go through the project area, the remainder of the intersections will have that bike lane and then the vehicular lane until you get all the way to the end of the project. The intersection at Warren will again have left turn lanes.
How much thought went into McKinley intersection? First of all, the work that was done on Lake Road is fantastic. The fact that both bike lanes carry through each intersection, most signalized intersections have turning boxes. That tells you as a driver, respect the bicyclist. Can some more thought be given to McKinley? Can we bump out some curves? Can we perhaps bring the bike lanes up? Have either an MEP or ship staff and provide a sidewalk? Losing the ability to carry the bikes through the intersections is probably the difference in someone who's using it and throws out all these abilities. Can we put some more effort into trying to find solutions to the intersections?
Part of the problem is that we are very limited as far as impacting the right-of-way. So we can't really impact the right-of-way. And we did a traffic study at the intersection, and we tried to make the intersection work without those left turn lanes, and it just does not. The problem is that is your access to 90, and there are a lot of left turns that happen at that intersection. So the intersection becomes very congested and dangerous when you remove the left turn lanes. So you are suggesting that perhaps we close the ramps to the highway and eliminate McKinley as an access point to 90? I mean, in order to do that, that would take something called an interchange justification or interchange removal study, which is another study which was not, unfortunately, within the scope of this project. And when you do something like that, when you remove an access point to an interstate, you usually end up overloading the other access points.
Just a comment real quick on the turning lane at McKinley and Hilliard. I've lived in that area for about 35 years, and up to about 10 years ago, before the turning lanes were put in, it was not uncommon to have numerous horrific accidents right there. And since those turning lanes have been put in, it's been a lot safer for both cars and pedestrians. So I think removing those would be detrimental.
Thank you.
Are you, you said it earlier that it can impact the right of way. Can you explain what that means or why it's limited in that spot?
So right-of-way within an urban area is limited all over the place. And when I said can't impact the right-of-way, what I mean, I believe Sean said, maybe have some bump outs, maybe. Well, we can't widen the road there because widening the road, it propagates out and then you end up impacting the properties. And it is very challenging to do property impacts. It's costly, and we try to avoid doing that in urban projects.
I don't know that I'm advocating doing anything outside of the right of way. We look perhaps creatively at allowing the bike lanes to come outside of the typical parkway, perhaps transitioning the sidewalk to something wider. I mean, I know that that's done with roundabouts, with bike lanes, so I know we have to push some boundaries here. Perhaps beneficial to
And we can look into it and see what it would take. I know that, we just recently did the Hilliard signalization project through there, so, it's a pretty tight intersection. Not that much real estate to work with, but I mean, for avid, bikers that want to use it, they can either use the shared path or just, enter one of the aprons and get to the sidewalk if they don't feel comfortable riding through there. So, we can sure take a look at it. I really don't think that there's, much room to give us any more pavement through there.
Because the issue with taking the cyclists and putting them onto the sidewalk and calling it a shared use path is then the sidewalk requirement is much wider. So now you're pushing yourself past the right of way yet again.
depending on how wide the tree line is.
And then you run into the grade differential because the tree lawn's up 6 inches. So the wider you make the sidewalk, and the sidewalk has to be a maximum of 2% grade sloped. So now you run into the problem where you end up at the location of the curb, but you're 10 inches above the surface of the road rather than 6, and that's considered an obstruction for the vehicles. So, the real estate is the problem. The problem is the width of the roadway, the width of the defined right-of-way, and what you have to work with, so.
Immensely challenging, just to make the point for the public. It would be preferable to carry these bike lanes through the intersection so that it appeals to a larger group of players. And makes the traffic not as.
And that was our goal from the beginning, and, we studied, they looked at it really closely and looked at the level of service and that, it just didn't make sense to lose those, turn lanes.
Okay.
Just to reiterate, or to back up to something that was said earlier, so all of the turning lanes on Hilliard need to be
the center turning lane, yeah.
Turning lane in Arthur, turning lane in Mars.
Correct. Correct.
Maybe change that with the traffic lights and this becomes on there. Hilliard already has all that. And Hilliard has intersections, traffic lights.
There was a traffic study done as part of this, and there are going to be some adjustments to timings because the traffic study did adjust some timings in order to make the level of service LOS, I should have brought that study, LOSC or better is what we go for.
Yeah, so my particular issue, I live on McKinley between Marginal and Hilliard. We already get much too much construction traffic on that section. How are we going to make sure that all of this construction traffic doesn't go on McKinley?
So the contractor will be required to stay within, the heavy trucking routes, which are, the 237 Hilliard. We wouldn't be permitted, McKinley, any trucking on McKinley. It would really be, limited to Detroit and
We have a ton of
state
it
road.
already. I mean, there's dump trucks and cement trucks going down the street. They get off 90 and just turn on McKinley. So we've already got a lot. There would be some sort of enforcement to make sure that this traffic isn't going on McKinley too.
Yeah, we definitely, throughout our construction projects, the contractor's made aware of what routes they have to use and which ones, and, if it becomes excessive, we'll coordinate with the police department for enforcement. We've done that in the past before. So if it gets, after we've told them multiple times that they're still doing it, then, we'll send right, well, we appreciate your comments. If you have further comments, or you want to, I think, Cindy, you seemed like you took some notes on some of the comments. There's comment cards back there. Please fill them out. I believe on the notice it has my contact information and my email address, so even if anything comes up afterwards. I think our comment period's open until September 6th, and really appreciate everybody for spending your evening and coming by and looking at new improvements for Lakeland. Thank you. If you want to comment on anything or look at any of the plans over there, we have another plan here, detour route.